This is a great man. We are very privileged in our country to have him be the director of the FBI.
That is not the FBI that I used to work with.
Well, that was then, when House Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi and Republican Congressman Trey Gowdy had sharp reactions to FBI Director Comey recommending no charges against Hillary Clinton. But this is now. And now it's Gowdy who is applauding Comey, while it's Pelosi who is expressing concerns. And it's time for our Sunday group. Syndicated columnist George Will, Charles Lane from the Washington Post, Gerald Saab, Washington bureau chief of the Wall Street Journal, and Washington Examiner contributor Lisa Booth. Well, George, what do you make of Comey's decision to reopen the investigation and to tell Congress about it over the objection of the Justice Department?
Well, it's baffling. The headline coast to coast is FBI has new evidence. There's no evidence whatever yet that there is new evidence pertaining to the email thing, because this is a contentless October surprise at this point. What Mr. Comey said is the emails appear to be pertinent. Well, they can be pertinent without being significant, because they can be redundant in demonstrating extreme recklessness, the category the FBI invented to avoid accusing her of gross negligence, which is a felony. So we perhaps, and we don't know this, perhaps the FBI has already seen these documents. They don't know whether they're duplicative or not. After Mr. Comey has said no reasonable prosecutor could have looked at what they've already looked at and proceeded with a case. Now, the I in the acronym FBI says investigation. The duty of the FBI is to investigate, and when it thinks it has concluded an investigation, to pass its conclusion on to the prosecutorial arm of the Department of Justice, not to write letters to the legislative branch of government. People say, well, this is happening 11 days before the election. No, no. 17 million votes have already been cast. It's happening in the middle of the voting. And finally, it is said that one of the reasons he rushed to do this, Mr. Comey, is he was afraid of a leak. The FBI can't be trusted not to leak its own investigations. As Chairman Grassley of the Senate Judiciary Committee said with some understatement, the country at this point immediately needs some context for all this.
Well, that raises the question, Jerry, about why Comey did this. As we saw in a couple of exchanges so far earlier in the show, he was being pressed by Republicans to reopen the investigation, and he said, no. First of all, what he'd seen so far, nothing was of that nature. And I think he repeatedly used the word substantial. It had to be something substantial to reopen the investigation. Can you imagine that he does what he does, in effect reopens the investigation, tells Congress about it, he can read the calendar 11 days before the election without any idea what's in here?
Well, that seems to be the case, though. I mean, you know, the assumption in this town right away was that he must have found something big or he wouldn't have done this. And then I think upon reflection, it's not clear the FBI has even seen these emails. There's a court order required to read the emails. There's no indication that has been delivered yet.
But certainly the part of the FBI that was investigating the sexting scandal, and I can't believe that we're talking about this, they must have seen it because they seized the laptop. They've had it for about a month, and he said they came to him with something, so they must have known that there are emails here.
But was the something the existence of the emails or the substance of the emails? That we don't know yet. But I think the point, and more directly to respond to your question, is that I think Director Comey had to be convinced that he was in an impossible situation, that if he didn't say something now and it became clear after the election that something new and potentially significant had arisen, that he hadn't said anything, he would be excoriated for that. Instead, he's being excoriated for this. He's managed to accomplish bipartisanship in Washington. He's gotten everybody mad at it.
We asked you for questions for the panel, and a bunch of you are skeptical about the FBI announcement. We got this on Facebook from Carl Baker. How can these new emails be more damning than those found in the previous investigation? As the FBI has already made it clear that she, Clinton, is untouchable, what's the point of this new investigation? Lisa, how do you answer Carl?
I don't know. I mean, I think we're all operating a lot of hypotheticals here because there isn't a lot of information that is absolute that is out there. All we really know is the letter that FBI Director Comey sent to Congress, as well as the internal memo that he sent to his FBI colleagues. I mean, that's really all the information that we know definitively. But watching the interview you did with Robbie Mook, I mean, it's very interesting for the Clinton campaign to say that they want the information out there when Hillary Clinton had taken the unprecedented actions of setting up a private server in the first place, deleting tens of thousands of emails, and then stonewalling the process and lying throughout it. And if you look at the Attorney General as well, who's been critical of the FBI and Comey's decision as well, the Attorney General has no moral high ground to stand on either, because she compromised herself in meeting with Bill Clinton and then had to defer to FBI Director Comey entirely throughout this entire thing. And so I think FBI Director Comey is between a rock and a hard place, because what is he supposed to do? He either releases the information now, which is ultimately what he decided to do, or at least send the letter, or wait until after the election. And then how's that going to go? So I mean, there really isn't a good decision for him to make here, and it's not like he has a lot of cover when Attorney General essentially has laid this entire thing at his feet.
Chuck, there are two, I think it's fair to say, maybe there are more, but two leading theories inside the Beltway right now. One is that Comey is involved in a cover your rear end operation because of all the heat he took when he announced last July that the case was closed, despite his political, not legal, but his political indictment of Clinton. And the other is that there must be something that somebody has read that he thinks is significant enough that he can't ignore it. Where do you come down?
Well, I think they could both be true, actually. And I think that I tend to sort of sympathize with the view that the FBI director was kind of, as Lisa put it, between a rock and a hard place. Either way, he was going to be under a lot of heat. But I think what this speaks to is a broader breakdown in the ordinary institutional processes of our criminal justice system. You are not supposed to be discussing the ongoing investigations publicly. That's just rule one, because that can lead to innuendo, smearing of innocent people. It's closely related to the presumption of innocence in our Constitution. And now things have gotten so screwed up that the target of the investigation, Hillary Clinton, is essentially begging to have the ongoing investigation take place in public. This is related to the mistake Loretta Lynch made by visiting with the former president. She's now out of the game, so no one in the Justice Department can exercise control over the FBI director. They're saying, well, we told him in a meeting this wasn't a good idea. Why didn't they just say, we order you not to do it? I don't understand that. We have complete breakdown. And that's something that ought to, if everybody in this country wasn't worried about whether their party was winning or not, that is what is really so disturbing about this whole thing.